You wanna buy some acid?
Listen, you fuckers, you screwheads.
Fuck, man, we got jets! Fucking doggy style and shit on their parents' pants! I'm working my chest, I'm working my triceps, I'm working the back of my calves, and I'm working my heart, and I'm working my lungs. I'm working my buttocks.
I'll tell you what, Steve King. Why don't you just take your mama home some chicken, and then I won't have to stuff my boot all up in your ass.
Man, you are one crazy motherfucker.
But it's all.
Go home to your mother. Doesn't she ever want you? Tell her this isn't some communist daycare center. Tell your mother I hate her. Tell your mother I hate you.
Alright, welcome back to...
Eat shit and die, Ricky!
And today we're talking about some goddamn Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This little segment I plan to do on the show where I pitch movie ideas. So if you threw me the keys and said, here, take the franchise for a spin, you get to make 3 movies, here's what I would do. This is the first movie. Alright, let's talk casting the Turtles really quick. I know I definitely want Joe DeRosa as Donatello, because you're casting it mostly on voice, but I would have them like in the suits, like the actual actors in the suits, doing their own, lending their own natural body posture to the Turtles to match the voice. That was one thing. Like, I didn't really care that their lips were a little out of sync. I mean, I kind of get that. And I get the other thing I'm about to complain about too. But the thing that stands out to me is I want the actions to actually match, you know, what they're saying. I don't want the ADR to be really, you know, obvious. Some of the physical acting in the turtle suits and the other movies, it was a little Charlie Chaplin. So that would be the thing I would want. I kind of figure the lips thing will work itself out. I don't know how I would want... I'm almost tampering with the idea of putting them in a turtle body suit and then just doing the fucking head in CGI. To where it's not, you know, make it nice and fluid, but to kind of make a move like they're in the turtle suits. Big complaint I have with the Michael Bay one, the second one particularly. What do the turtles weigh? 2 pounds? They're flying around like fucking garbage bags everywhere. These things would weigh a lot. Like, I want you to be able to feel a little weight on these turtles. So when it's just the turtles chilling or talking, it's the actors. And then when all the fighting is going on, we break in the stuntmen. Donatello is, well, like all Donatellos, he's the one that really is going to be the most pacifist. That's why he gets along with everybody. Like, he's never really in trouble with Splinter. Him and Leonardo are never in a dick measuring contest over who's in charge. He's best buddies with Mikey because he's into all of the same, you know, shit Mikey is, like, you know, music and movies and all that type of stuff. And he's the one person who can talk to Raph without Raph wanting to beat the shit out of him. So, like, he doesn't threaten Raph on any level. And, like, his attitude towards combat is very much like, dude, are you really gonna make me hit you with the stick? Alright, I'll hit you with the stick if it's really what you want. There, I hit you with the stick. Are you happy? And so many of the, like, later renditions of these characters, they're always like, hey, Donatello's supposed to be smart, so let's stick glasses on him and make him like a nerd. And that's like fine in, like, the Michael Bay movies, but he even has, like, I think he has glasses in the Mutant Mayhem one too. I think that seems to be a theme they keep running with. What, did he go to the optometrist? Like, he's just saying, there's one, I think in the other one, like, Mikey has braces. Okay, well, now you're opening up this whole... You can't just pick up a pair of glasses and stick them on. Like, you gotta have the lenses adjusted a certain way. But it's always done under the assumption that, like, Donatello's smart, so let's make him a nerd. Yeah, okay, except nerds aren't smart. In the 80s, a nerd was kind of smart because they were good with, like, computers and shit like that. Like, they knew the value of learning to type and learning to code. But nowadays, nerds mostly just know stupid bullshit, like Star Wars. But really, Donatello just needs to be the most chill. And the most intellectual one. That doesn't mean he's Tony Stark, either. He just has a better, like, aptitude for understanding mechanics. But either way, Joe DeRosa's voice conveys all of those pitches. Plus, he's got a good laugh that I think sounds good on Donatello.
This is? I don't know. But I'll bet I never asked to look for a can opener.
A good laugh is also important. It makes the character memorable, a little insight into their personality, the way they laugh. So yeah, DeRosa's voice, DeRosa's body language. DeRosa's my pick for Donatello.
You'll read a story, it'll be like, a man was caught on video giving oral sex to a crocodile. It is wild. We're not going to show you, though. You'll find that shit on your own. Thanks, News, for forcing me onto the dark web. Because now I can't get a crocodile getting its pussy eaten out of my fucking head right now.
Alright, now for Raphael. He's somebody with some good alpha energy, a bit of an attitude problem, likes to fight with little knives. I'm thinking, how about the Puerto Rican rattlesnake, Luis J. Gomez?
Do you love it? Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? Then fucking quit it. Let's quit your fucking job. I mean it. Is he on now? You gotta call him right now. What's his name and what's your name?
My name's Mike.
Shut the fuck up. Hey, it's Mike. Hey, man, I ain't coming to work tomorrow.
Huh?
I said I ain't fucking coming to work tomorrow.
All right.
Mike, you couldn't be any more unwanted.
Well, you're probably noticing a little bit of a theme here. This was something they were talking about doing in the first movie years ago with Robin Williams and Gallagher doing the voices of the Turtles, which would have made the movie completely fucking unwatchable. But these are... I think these guys are different kind of comedians. Because, like, Robin Williams and Gallagher, like, they were very, like, bit and punchline and one-liner driven kind of comedy. Whereas DeRosa and one of my other choices and Luis J. Gomez are comedic energy of, like, we can hang out and just be funny amongst ourselves for like 3 hours and like breaking each other's balls as friends. Like, the benefit of some of these people like actually knowing each other and having like, that's the closeness of these characters is something I really want to focus on in this story, as opposed to the just throw shit at the screen 1,000 miles an hour because we believe the audience can't handle less than 20 seconds of screen time without some kind of like visual stimulation because of the TikTok generation. Well, I wouldn't be making it for the idiots who can't watch something longer than 20 seconds. I would be making it for the people like if it do like character analysis videos. Like, I would want Bully Whispers to be able to do a series of videos about like how the Foot Clan works and shit like that. Like, that's the people I'm making the movie for, is people that do that. Luis J. Gomez has a great walk that I could see Raphael having. Or maybe it's just the big jacket already kind of makes him look like he's in a turtle shell. But the dog bit is another good example of like something that would happen to Raphael that would be funny, and like how Raphael would respond to a situation.
The other day, and he started humping this other male dog. The dog's owner started fucking with me. He was like, yo, son, your dog is gay. Those words broke my fucking heart. I got really defensive and angry. I was like, don't call my dog gay. Your dog's gay. He's just sitting there taking it. My dog is just dominating your homo dog like a man would. That's right, sport. Lick his asshole. Let him know his boss.
Conflicted on who I would want to be Leonardo. William Zabka, I think, would be pretty cool.
Fuck. Did you attack your opponent when his back was turned?
Yes, Sensei?
Diaz, did you purposely attack your opponent's injury?
Yes, Sensei.
that makes you badass? What's the matter? Too tough a question? Maybe you need some help. Miss Robinson!
Yes, Sensei.
2 cobras in the jungle. One kills the strongest lion. The other kills a crippled monkey. Which cobra do you want to be?
Now, I had another person in mind for Leonardo, because not only is this dude a huge Turtles fan, but is one of the few people whose favorite turtle is Leonardo. However, unfortunately, due to his size, his energy, and his ability to rapid fire 80s Arcadia references like Dennis Miller, kind of makes him better suited for Michelangelo. And the more I think about him as Michelangelo, as the voice of Michelangelo, the more I'm liking it. That guy Razor Fist.
Go! Move it, will ya? Oh, you let him blow right by you. Can you believe this guy? Come on, don't just ninja kick the damn rabbit. Do something!
As little of the Stromboli Syndicate know they're being stalked by the balls-out benchmark for 80s action nom de guerre. Move the fuck over, Mad Max. Head home, Harry Callahan. Lick my nuts, Lone Wolf McQuick. Please don't fucking kill me.
Need I say more?
One thing's for sure, I know this son of a bitch doesn't have problems remembering lines, that's for fucking sure. And I think actually with Leonardo being his favorite turtle, him as Michelangelo looking up to Leonardo, I think that would really translate very well through the character of Michelangelo. So, I don't think he'd bitch either way. Alright, so, we're going back to the 80s. No cell phones, no Google. I want chicks with perms in the background. The whole works. And it's not going to be the cheesy 80s either, where we take 2024 and just throw 80s shit everywhere and go, look, the 80s! Look, it's Star Wars, the 80s! Oh yeah, big rule. Amongst the actors and when it comes to improving any dialogue. No Star Wars references, no fucking Indiana Jones references, and no Back to the Future references, no Ghostbusters references. I hate 2 of those movies, and the other 2 is just the Ghostbusters and Back to the Future are alright, but they're just over-mentioned. People were not that obsessed with those movies back then. Alright, I remember being alive back then. I mean, barely, but that post-Kevin Smith writing where people go, yeah, just have him reference Star Wars ad nauseum. That feels like the scene in The Other Guys where the building blows up and they're doing the whole bit where they're like screaming because, you know, you're being next to an explosion in real life does damage even if you don't get burned and all that shit. And it's a funny gag, but then he's like, oh, yeah, it's just like that part in Star Wars where they fly away from the thing, and it's just like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. We almost got through an entire post-Kevin Smith era movie without a fucking Star Wars reference. So yes, the whole Star Wars thing, yeah, it was popular for a little bit, but it's post-Clerks is when no one ever shuts up about that fucking movie. So no Star Wars, no obvious 80s. If you're gonna hear characters listen to music, you're gonna use music from the 80s. Like that's another one, is the music. It's whatever was on Casey Kasem's top 40. The top 40 hit. Like, people didn't listen to fucking 99 Love Balloons back then. People liked the deep cuts. If it was on the radio back then, people liked it enough to go buy the album and then mostly listen to the deeper tracks. Just that cheesy point, look, the 80s, look, there's some more 80s, look, here's a Breakfast Club reference, look, here's just all the obvious 80s shit. I want to avoid as much of that as possible. But no, when I say I want it to be an 80s, I want it to feel like a movie made in the goddamn 80s. I want a soundtrack made out of keyboard synthesizer. I want an original song that is in the vein of one of those Paul Herzog songs from those Van Damme movies, like Kickboxer.
Everybody loves a winner. Everyone can see that I am. Everybody follows the leader, baby. Cruising down the streets of Siam.
It's gonna have a good old-fashioned 80s montage right in the middle. Like, just and here's an example of what I'm talking about with the bad renditions of time periods. That show, I think it's called X Hunters, the one with Al Pacino where he's playing like a Simon Wiesenthal type dude who's going around hunting all of these escaped Nazis. I had an ex-girlfriend that was watching this show, and I saw a couple. I ruined this fucking show for her. We're watching it, and it's supposed to take place in the 70s. And I'm just sitting there picking apart all of the bad writing because it was really pissing me off. There was a scene where this black woman that was like some kind of agent or something is talking to some other government official about some corruption, because it's all about Operation Paperclip or something. But I'm like, this is the 70s. I'm looking at her hair. I'm going, okay, that's not 70s hairstyle, black women. And I'm not even necessarily saying that all black women in the 70s had the afro, but it's just like that's a today hairstyle on this woman is something I'm already picking out and being annoyed by. But she makes she's talking to the other government official guy, and she's like, and y'all all up there Linda Lovelacing on they dicks or something like that. And it was the Linda Lovelacing line that really stuck to me, because it's like, just because it happened in the 70s doesn't mean your characters know. This is how Quentin Tarantino ruined movies, by the way. Not everybody is a fucking cinema expert. Nobody in 1970 whatever would know who the fuck Linda Lovelace was, let alone a black woman who's supposed to be like this upstanding government citizen. Is she going and like flicking her bean in the fucking porn theaters? Because otherwise she wouldn't know who Linda Lovelace fucking was back then. Like, they write these stories, like they write these references with this sort of retrospection that's written all over them, where it's like they in the moment, in that time, that woman would not know who the fuck Linda Lovelace was. And they do that shit all the time in movies that are supposed to be, you know, the 80s or whatever. They really shoehorn that shit in. Oh shit, I almost forgot. Splinter. Who does the voice of Splinter? I'm a little up in the air on this one. I have a couple of ideas. I'm leaning towards Christopher Lambert, or Christopher Lambert, if I want to sound like a fruit. He was a great Raiden. He's got a good splintery voice. That, come here, my son, sit down. But he might be a little too over the top. It's the thing about Christopher Lambert, he's not a very good actor. He's actually a kind of a terrible actor. He's enjoyably terrible, don't get me wrong, but he's not good. Sometimes he's quick. Let's talk April. No more of this ugly April shit. April's gonna be hot. Stupidly hot. Like, blow your eyeballs out of your head hot. Jessica Lange in 1976, King Kong. That's just out of spite. I want to make her that ridiculously hot. You can't be... She couldn't be less attractive than Chrissy Mayer. And it's not me dumping on Chrissy Mayer. Chrissy Mayer's really fucking hot. But that is your minimum. In fact, now that I think about it, Chrissy Mayer is actually the perfect April O'Neil. Unless we could go back in time and get Jessica Lange out of that King Kong movie from 1976 and put her in this. That's the only person I think that could beat out Chrissy Mayer for April. The more I think about it, because... Look, it's one of the things with movies that really take you out of it is, now that we know the actors so well, like as people, and we don't like them, they don't really have a lot of credibility as far as playing these characters. Because, yeah, the actress, knowing the actress playing April, who is like, I'll put myself in danger to get to the truth, to uncover a story, is the type of, you know, at the same time, she'll turn around and tell you to, like, get the vaccine and shit like that. And for all of the Hollywood people talking shit about the January 6th rioters, Chrissy Mayer was actually there. She didn't go in the Capitol or anything, but she was actually there at the event that led to January 6th, doing internet journalistic reporting about what was going... So she is kind of April O'Neil. She actually has some credibility of being April O'Neil. Like, back in the day, we actually thought Steven Seagal could fight back in the 80s. Believe it or not. Whether or not he could, in fact, kick Van Damme's ass, he never could. That was a legitimate debate based off the bullshit we were seeing him do in those movies. And you heard little things like, you know, oh, he studied in Japan, like all that nonsense he was making up. Nobody had debunked that yet. So when we saw him, like, ripping people's throats out in his movies, he had some credibility as a guy that could do that. Now, when we introduce her, she's giving the news report that's telling us what's going on. This guy's holding a subway hostage, and of course, we find out his name. And yes, he is going to be a Turtles villain, but a very, very, very obscure one. I'm not even going to say he was an official Turtles villain, but this is how you do a fucking Easter egg.
But this is not just a new state-of-the-art transportation system. This is one of the best tools we have to unclog our freeways and improve our air quality. But something is not quite right. For some reason, people seem to be unaware that the RTD Metro Blue Line will soon be open for business.
And because of me, people will never learn about the Blue Line.
It's gridlock!
Right you are, my dear, and thanks to my glue.
Okay, yes, this is a really silly promo for a really silly thing, and yeah, Gridlock is a really silly character in this promo. Now, see, you don't do you're doing an Easter egg to sort of acknowledge this silly thing. Instead of going, hey, remember, wasn't that stupid? There is something here. Gridlock is actually not a bad idea for a Turtles villain. And hey, I gotta give whoever made this little promo some props. They could have just stuck some googly eyes on like a fake brain or something and called it Krang and be like, Krang wants to stop the subway. They could have just slapped together a shitty Shredder costume. No, somebody actually thought outside the box and created a unique, original villain for this silly promo. So what this guy is going to be planning to do in this movie, him and his crew, is they're holding the subway train ransom. They have bombs strapped to it, and if they don't get what they want, they're going to send this thing flying right into like the center of town, where it's going to, you know, explode, cave in the streets, just completely cut off all of the traffic flow into like an entire section of town, creating essentially gridlock. It's right. So I don't know New York's you know, streets and everything, so it's only going to be somebody else's department of figuring out how this is would actually work. But essentially that's his plan, is he's going to completely shut down the city of New York. Like, this is a Timothy McVeigh level crime this dude is committing. And rather than, like, you know, the silly voice and all of that shit, like, we're gonna make this dude scary, like Kaiser Soze at the beginning of Usual Suspects, where he's just like the fedora, the coat, the just slow, calculated, eerie movements. He's like a little Robert Shaw from Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3, just no bullshit. You give me my money or this is happening. And he's not gonna hesitate to do it either. So he's a serious as fuck villain. Alright, so we see the inside of the car. We see Gridlock being menacing, giving his bad guy what I'm gonna do speech. Here's the consequences of not paying me. And we'll cut to his bad guy outside walking around with his machine gun, making sure none of the cops or anybody's coming down the track. And then we'll get this is a pop culture reference. Not gonna overdo it again, but you hear the little the Friday the 13th noise, and then you just hear like it starts going off everywhere, and then you get these little taps on pipes and taps on the like train where it's like all around and freaking the guy out, and then you just see him get snatched off screen. Then you cut back to scary ass fucking Gridlock talking to the cops into the mic, and then you just see the glass next to him just breaks, and like there's blood in it. And you know, it's not like it's like that glass that's got the plastic in the middle, so it's like the shatterproof glass. So you just see it crack, and then you see a giant blood splatter go up the side of the glass. Get the weapons ready. They go outside. They see old dude laying against the side of the car. Down, he's all bloody, possibly dead. And Gridlock pulls into his radio, goes, "Hit the timers. We're doing it." as in, you know, let's go ahead and start these bombs going. But instead, big pile of dismantled bombs drop down from the top of the subway car at their feet. They look up with their flashlights up at the roof of the subway. There's the 4 turtles, barely lit in flashlights, jump into fight stance, and then freeze frame, old school, just like in Turtles 1 and 2, where you get the freeze frame and then you get the title card comes up, and then we cut to the subway station where the cops are held up post, and April is, you know, there reporting, waiting on the next thing to happen. All the hostages start coming out of the subway tunnel. Then Mikey's voice comes up and says, you know, "Attention NYPD," or "Bad guy salad is waiting for you at the whatever." I don't really know exactly what that line would be, but it would be something along the lines of like, "Your order of bad guys is ready," or something like that. Unmistakably Michelangelo. And then the cops start heading down the tunnel. April starts heading down the tunnel. And then we kind of we'll go into that found footage from the point of view of April's cameraman as it's following her down the subway. And she's like, "Oh, this is, you know, the events that are unfolding, blah, blah," trying to give her news report. Then we get to the end, we'll just see all the bad guys at the outside of the train are all tied up and beat up and shit, and the cop's going to push her back out of the tunnel. And she gets back into the subway station. She crosses paths with a little girl who asks her if she saw the turtles, and then April just kind of shrugs that off, and then that's our opening scene. But this is the moment where that starts April's story going, is now figuring out who stopped the Gridlock and his gang from blowing up half of New York with this subway car. And that's what gets her moving throughout the story. So Gridlock is going to come back, but he's of course now going to be in a mental institution because he's claiming that he got his ass kicked by 4 turtles. And this also catches April because she remembers, hey, this little girl said something about turtles. And I don't know if it'd be too like far into the meta reference zone. It might not work, but I think it would be pretty rad. Is if Elias Koteas played Gridlock, the original Casey Jones, because he looks, you know, a lot different now. He's, you know, he's older, he's bald, he's good at playing kind of psychotic, sinister guys. Alright, cut to a scene right out of the first one. The turtles are walking down the sewer, celebrating their fight. They're all talking shit. Except for this time, Leonardo is the one that's kind of pissy. Catches Raphael as they're going in the house, pulls him aside, and goes, "Dude, what was that back there?" Raph goes, "What are you talking about?" And Leo goes, "You could have killed that guy." Raph goes, "So what?" And then he goes back into the house. And then Leonardo stands out there for a moment, sighs, and goes, "Damn." Alright, now we meet Splinter, after they come home and cheer about how they stopped the guys in the subway. And Splinter informs them that he's heard from Casey. And, you know, Mikey's like, "Oh, Uncle Casey?" So we're going to already set up that they have met Casey Jones already. And Casey Jones is already a very important person in their life. More on that later. Although he's wouldn't be in this movie. Alright, so now we have a scene where Mikey and Donnie go out to get pizza and rent some videos. And this is another place where knowing Casey Jones comes in handy, because they're using his video card and his video membership to rent movies. This would be a good place to poke some fun at Michael Bay for having his turtles just be too ridiculously busy. Is that their outfits are so outlandish that if they weren't in New York, they would probably be spotted. And they do a lot to cover their face. Like, they still wear the big trench coats, but they also tack on beards. Donnie's dressed like a Hasidic Jew. He's got the big beard. He's got the glasses. Michelangelo has got the ZZ Top beard. He looks like a hillbilly. He's also got ridiculous glasses. They're not disguising their voices at all, so their voices don't even match their outfits. This would be another fun little bit to me, is when they're in the video store, Mikey notices, he goes, "Oh man, he's like, somebody's got Blade Runner out." And Donnie goes, "Thank God." Mikey's like, what? He's like, how do you not love Blade Runner? And he's like, how do you like it at all? And now it seems like it would be the other way around, that Donatello would be the guy that likes Blade Runner and Michelangelo would be the guy that thinks it's boring. But that's what drives Mikey's utter disbelief of Donatello's not liking this movie. And it would be a funny conversation that the two actors could riff, because Blade Runner is Razorfist's favorite movie of all time. God, don't ask fucking why. Because I think Blade Runner's boring as hell, and so does Joe DeRosa. The only thing is they wouldn't be able to have the improv argument the way that nerds argue now. They have to argue all of their points like 15-year-old boys who are just talking about the movie. So Mikey's like, I can't believe they argue about this the whole time he's in the store. You know, like, I can't believe you don't like this. And he's like, I can't believe you do. You didn't even like Enemy Mine. And he's like, yeah, but Enemy Mine, there was this whole... I was set up thinking we were going to see, like, a fight. Instead, the guy's having a baby. He's raising a kid. But I would expect you to like that. You watch Golden Girls every week. And then Donatello's like, it's funny! He's like, and you've laughed at it more than once. He's like, well, Blade Runner, you got the droids, you got the... You know, he's describing scenes where you got the unicorn at the end, and Donnie's like, oh, there's a unicorn at the end? I don't know. I fell asleep long before that happened. And they carry this conversation they end up renting Arena, by the way, which is just some space movie where some dude is in a tournament fighting, like, mutants or whatever. I kind of like the idea that they would gravitate towards movies that had anthropomorphic mutant creatures in it. But they carry this whole Blade Runner argument all the way to the counter. And this is where I would give Tony from Hack the Movies a cameo, as he's the guy that they rent the videos from. So he's just sitting there all red-eyed and stoned. And Mikey's like, all right, fine, we'll ask an expert. Blade Runner, awesome, right? And then he just looks at Mikey, looks at Donnie, looks at Mikey, looks at Donnie, and looks back at Mikey and points at him and goes, weren't you the Jew last time? And Donnie's like, come on, dude, focus. Blade Runner, yay or nay? And he just goes, it's alright. And Mikey's like, ha! And Donnie goes, point proven. And Mike's like, what? He's like, he didn't say it sucks. He's like, he didn't say it was good either. Alright, hang on. Actually, they can't rent Arena, because that came out in 1989, and this takes place in 1988. I'm not all that familiar with that flick. I caught it on Pluto a while back. Now looking it up for the editing process, I realize now that it's a year too late. So fuck it, they rent Critters 2. Also, I definitely in this video store I want that cardboard cutout of Freddy Krueger that used to be in the video stores around that time, which is also a reference to Critters 2, because it appears in the scene where the bounty hunter is about to turn into Freddy Krueger because it's looking at that poster. And Charlie stops it. And it's also a reference to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1, because Critters is the movie Raphael goes to see when he goes out and goes to the movies. Alright, so we go back to the living room of the Turtle Den. Raph, Splinter, and Leo are watching the news report about the subway hijacking and all that. Reports criminals got arrested. One of them's in a coma, might not make it. They, of course, both look at Raph. And we get our first scene of Splinter getting onto Raph. Raph's like, yeah, I don't get the big deal. You know what that guy was going to do? And in a way, Raph's got a point. Like, you know, fuck that guy. How many people that guy was going to kill? But Splinter's trying to illustrate to him. It's like, yeah, but that's not why you threw him into the wall like that. That's not why you did it. He's not quite getting that it's not okay. Like, why this is bad for you later. Not fuck him. You later on are going to pay the price for being this way. And of course, Raph's just kind of shrugging it off like, alright, man, I mean, whatever. And then this is where we get our first little reference to an incident where Mikey and Raph were sparring. Mikey got the better of Raph. Mikey made a joke. Raph got pissed off and hurt Mikey really bad. And he hasn't lived this down since. So this is a thing that's already happened, but it keeps getting thrown in his face, and this has been going on for a little bit now. So we'll see in the scene that he's already a little defensive about it anytime it comes up. Alright, so now we get to the scene where turtles are eating dinner, and this is gonna be a thing that might piss some people off, but hey, fuck them. If you really got a problem with this. They say grace before they eat. There's gonna be a reason given to how this comes about, but it's not to push my religious views, because I don't really have any, but it's more of a family bonding thing. Plus, I think as scavengers, once they know about this tradition, I mean, rats, turtle, they're scavenger animals, so they would gravitate towards this practice, I think. So it's Mikey's turn to lead grace, and he does it. And then, of course, he goes, I don't want to thank you for splints, because those come in handy. And then Raph's like, all right, come here, you little shit. Like, that does it. They get into this big blow-up. Raph walks away from the table. He walks off. He's like, that's it, I'm leaving. Donnie gets up and follows him, because Donnie's usually the guy that can talk him down, but he's had enough. And Donnie's like, dude, come on, you know him. He didn't mean it. And Raph's like, dude, I've been putting up with this long enough. He's like, fuck. Spar with me right now. Fine, spar with me right now. And Donnie's like, dude, I don't want to spar with you, man. I want to eat dinner. Plus, you're pissed off. Nobody wants to spar with you when you're pissed off. He's like, nobody wants to spar with me ever. He's like, because you're always pissed off. So he has this fuck it, I'm leaving moment. And they figure, you know, he's just going out to blow off some steam. And then Mikey gets his talking to. This one is... And Mikey gets his little lecture from Splinter about, you know, his mouth. How much trouble it can cause. And basically, didn't you learn a lesson during the sparring match about that mouth? So, figuring Raph's gonna come back, they leave his pizza on the table. But when they wake up the next morning, his pizza's still there. He never came back. And now they go off to look for Raph. They go check their spots. One of their spots is gonna be that silo from the comic book, the one with the Rat King, where they kill the Rat King. That's gonna be a place they hang out, because it's abandoned. Nobody's ever there. But Raphael is not there either. Alright, so now we cut back to what April's doing. We're going to get her with the police again, except this time, instead of it being like, you know, what do you hope to accomplish out there, besides busting my chops? Instead of that guy, we're going to do a little bit differently this time. This time, she's got a contact inside the department high up enough to like help her do shit, and she returns the favor by getting them information they're not able to get, you know, little shit like that. So we see her negotiating this deal to get an interview with Gridlock. Of course, is going to be, all right, we'll let you get the interview, just don't air it until we say it's okay to air it. Of course. And also, quid pro quo, will you do us a favor and look into this? And he shows her some crime scene photos. Like, these are some mobsters that have been found, head capos and bosses of different crime organizations. This is like 2 or 3 in a row now that have been found with their feet chopped off. And this tag being left in the area, we still don't know who these guys are. And it's, of course, going to be a Foot Clan symbol that is marked with the way they leave the symbol is it's the victim's footprint is left on them. I just thought that's a thing I just thought of. Like, they dip it in the victim's blood and then stamp the foot like impression on them. And the cutting off the feet, I've kind of toyed with the notion, because again, this is going to be, you know, there's holes in this idea still. Not really, actually, plot-wise it's solid, but as far as the little details, like, I still come up with those, and that was one of them. But I've toyed with the notion that maybe the Foot Clan is a title given to them by the media, because their calling card when they take over an area is to take whatever boss was running the streets in that neighborhood and make an example of him by lopping off his feet. It's like a symbol for how their organization is no longer in motion. Your movement has ceased. So they have like some kind of Japanese name, and then the media calls them the Foot Clan. Although that would be kind of confusing. Maybe, I don't know. Then again, like I said, I'm not making this movie for retards. On the other hand, you don't want it to be like too complicated either. It's just kind of hard to believe that, you know, this Yakuza-like organization of assassins names themselves the Foot Clan. That really does sound like something the media would come up with. I would totally steal this. It wasn't like a joke he took on stage or anything. It's just some throwaway remark he made on Opie and Jim one day when Sam Roberts referenced the Foot Clan in a joke, and Opie, being the most culturally illiterate radio host of a pop culture show to ever exist, is like, I don't know who that is. And Jim Norton goes, they don't like feet in their neighborhood. That's just such a funny fucking line that I might steal it and put it in this movie. That's what April should say when the cop's like, looking at these people we call the Foot Clan, and she goes, the Foot Clan? What, do they not like feet in their neighborhood? And then he whips out the picture. Evidently not, because chopping off feet happens to be their calling card. Alright, so now we catch up with Raphael, who is wandering through like an abandoned Skid Row part of town where nobody's really paying attention to him. He's got the trench coat and the hat. He's not going over the top with a disguise or anything. Passes by an old building, and some dudes start fucking with him. Not Foot Clan members, but the Foot Clan but guys who want to be in the Foot Clan that are hanging around trying to get noticed by the Foot Clan. They try to jump him, and of course Raphael throws off the coat onto one of them's head, so he's blinded, knocks out the other two, knocks out the dude with the coat, and then he chases the last one into a junkyard. And this is where we see like some of what I was talking about, what I want to do with Raph, with like his exploring more of like the bad sides of his personality, aside from just the anger issues, is that he's not beating this guy up like a ninja. He's beating him up like a playground bully. He's just like tripping him and taunting him and kind of bitching him, you know, trying to crawl away from him or whatever. And he's like, hey, you know, I always wanted to try this. I see it in movies and never got to do it. So he grabs the dude's underwear and like picks him up off the ground like the ultimate like atomic wedgie. He's just holding him up off his feet, and the dude's like screaming. And then some actual foot soldiers start coming out. Classic foot soldiers, black outfit, black mask, red headband with the insignia, not the foot, but the actual like dragon. So about, 12, 13 or so of these dudes come out. And Raph looks around and goes, alright, level 2, let's go. And Raph proceeds to kick their ass, old school 90s Ninja Turtle style, as Live Wire by Motley Crue kicks off in the fucking background. That's just... That's just to give you an idea of how I want that fight to kind of go down. It's going to look a little better, have better choreography and shit in mind, be maybe a little more violent, less goofy. So after he flawlessly kicks the shit out of all of them, even more of them start showing up. More this time than he could realistically take on. So he looks around, he's like, holy shit. What is this, Attack of the Tire People? How many of you assholes live here? Alright, but let's go. But he's still ready to do it, still talking shit. And that's, again, why I think Louis J. Gomez... This is the scene I think of Louis J. Gomez, one of, as being able to sell a good Raphael character. By simply being Louis J. Gomez. But anyway, foot soldiers start coming forth. Raphael's going, come on, let's do it. Still talking his shit. He ain't gonna win this fight, but he's still gonna do it. And then you hear the enough, and then we get our grand reveal of Shredder, and classic Eastman Laird design Shredder. No robot suit or any other stupid shit. Just bare basic like the first one. Might change up a few things. I might make the costume a little less glittery and maybe a little more darker. But Shredder steps forth, and instead of going, kill the turtle, he just goes, who are you? That's it. Delivered it much better in the evil kind of Shredder voice, and then we cut away to something else. So now we're back with April, who's getting her interview with this guy, Gridlock, who insane asylum because, and the cop explains it, he's like, a piece of work, this guy. He puts together this big, elaborate plot that takes so much brain power and skill and planning and competence, and it goes bad, and this guy, now he's trying to pull this insanity defense. She's like, what are you talking about? So, you're going to have to hear it to believe it. So in his interview, he's, still got the demeanor of, this cold-blooded train robber, only now he's still got that demeanor and insisting that him and his men were attacked by giant turtles in the sewer. Like, he's just not dropping that story. And the cops just see it as like he's going for an insanity defense. And then we have the scene where he says it, and then it transitions to like a tape stopping, and then April showing the interview to her boss, or Vern. Actually, we'll go with Vern. And Vern's like, this is great stuff. And then April mentions, like, there's a little girl that said she saw big turtles in the sewer too. So she's made the connection. And then Vern's like, I wouldn't pursue that angle, but this is gonna be great when it hits the news. Like, it's good. It's like, I wouldn't run with trying to prove that there were giant turtles that stopped it. Otherwise, you're going to have that whole human fly incident again. And I'll let him go on about it for a minute, but it's a reference to her when she was an intern. She got a hold of a picture that somebody took of a human fly, that the bosses and the higher-ups just insisted was somebody took a picture of a fly sitting on the camera lens, and it double exposed over a picture of a person, and it's just an incident that people laugh at her for, but not to sell it in the whole, glass ceiling, girl power, the boys don't believe me. Like, everybody, it's said like everybody in this place has that story of the thing that they get goofed on that they did when they were, rookies or whatever. It's a rookie mistake she still gets teased about, and everybody has theirs. That's the vibe I want that conversation to kind of have. But anyway, now we cut back to Shredder walking through the Foot headquarters with Raphael, tell him about the organization, what it offers, what they are, as opposed to, like, just kill the turtle. This Shredder went, I want you in my clan. If you're not with anybody now, you're gonna be with me, because you're a bad motherfucker. Like, this Shredder's impressed. So he's pitching this to Raphael. Now, whereas Raphael would have had nowhere to go or nowhere to stay, would have eventually had to go home, Shredder has just given him an opportunity to be somewhere else. Somewhere where people are in awe. People are, like, impressed with him. And, not to mention, this looks like the thing he has been trained to honor and respect his whole life. This is a clan of ninjas. So there's a little bit of incentive for Raph to, at the very least, want to hang out there. Especially because I'm bringing back that whole playroom, like that big arcade with the skateboard thing in the middle, and chicks walking around chewing bubble gum as they're drinking. The kids, it's a place where makes the Foot Clan appealing, or any gang for that matter. The gang life appealing. That's what draws, like, young kids. Oh, we get to go to this place where we get to have adult fun, to smoke cigars and play poker. And that really is, like, a big difference between kids back when that original movie was made, back like the 80s and 90s, and people now. Like, kids wanted to grow up back then. Now it's like, you know, just one day somebody breaks the news to you, hey, I'm sorry, but you're an adult now? No! What? Why? Is there a cure? So we walk with Raphael through that part, and then we get to the fight club room where everybody's doing all the kickboxing training. This is where we meet. He introduces Raphael to his daughter, Karai. Now, in Shredder's vision, we also meet Tatsu. And in Shredder's planning, this is what he wants Raphael to kind of be, is Karai's Tatsu. This dude who stands behind her and fucks up whoever decides to step forward and say anything. Even though Shredder and Karai both are competent fighters, more than competent, they still have dude who stands here and fucks people up when I want that done. And that's kind of who Tatsu is. Except I think I'm going to change up Tatsu a little bit. You know what would be really cool for Tatsu? Bolo Young playing Tatsu. He's more like a consigliere type, where he's just Shredder's right-hand man that gives Shredder advice and things like that. Bolo Young, for anybody that doesn't know, is the dude from played Chong Li in the movie Bloodsport. Great bad guy. He's got a great bad guy face. He was a bad guy in a lot of old martial arts movies. Enter the Dragon, also. His name was Bolo in that movie. But yeah, so that's who Shredder. That's the potential he sees, you know, as far as Raphael's future in the organization. Because it's very unlikely. Because all of this shit you have to go through to get up to where Karai, the level Karai is at in the Foot Clan, in that tier, is to mostly make sure you're not a cop. And that's with any organization. The chances that the cops have sent in a, 6-foot turtle that knows ninjutsu is pretty fucking slim, right? I mean, that's not even what happens, but, from a crime boss standpoint, what are the odds? Fucking turtle is gonna be a narc. So Raphael immediately, based on skill alone, and just the fact that I don't have to run him through the "Are you a cop?" filtration process, is already, Raph is joining the organization at damn near the highest level any of the teens could go. Like, he's like the kid that is getting skipped ahead in high school. He's the Doogie Howser of the fucking Foot Clan. He's got very little more to prove to Shredder before he's the number 3 guy in the gang. So they make the introductions with Karai and Raphael, and then Karai points out her protege that she's bragging on, which is going to be a character, another obscure Turtles character, Asuka from TMNT Tournament Fighters. I've never heard of or seen this character appear anywhere other than this goddamn video game, so why not? As opposed to just making up a character. And who I have in mind for this role is Peyton List, aka Tori from Cobra Kai. This is her role in this movie, is to show you, well, you're going to learn it through Raph, and you're going to learn it through Karai and Asuka's experience of like how the tier of the Foot Clan works. Like, you get the punks outside that Raphael gave the wedgie to that aren't really in the club yet but wanna be. Then you got the guys who hang out in that back room doing the fighting that everybody watches fight. They're the ones who can graduate up. Like, you get good at fighting, you get good at stealing, you've earned your way up. Now we'll give you a costume. Once you get the costume, you're next level. Then you get the headband. But then you get up to that next level where you're doing like the more important international crime shit, like watching over a gun shipment or handling a gun shipment. And instead of having them like import guns into the country, we're gonna have them exporting them to Japan. So it's like the mafia. You earn enough, you prove yourself enough, then just like the mafia, we open up the books. You get your button, you get made, you get your tat. When you get tattooed, you're really in. Alright, so we're making an 80s movie here. Time for the old montage. with an original song done in the style of those that like Paul Herzog, those songs from those 80s movies like Kickboxer. It's one of those upbeat, go-getter songs, and not done ironically, like that wink-wink, sarcastic, meta-humor bullshit. Where it's like, oh, it's like satirizing these. No, a sincere effort. There's more than just... There's a way to do comedy and stuff like this, and there's a way not to. Everything is a parody, a self-aware parody thing. That, to me, is just over. I am done with it. It's not good anymore. It was funny for a little while, but now it's got to where it just takes you out of every movie. I don't need every movie to wink at you and go, movie! I know I'm watching a fucking movie. And it's not funny. It comes off as snide after a while, just like smug, like, yeah. Again, that whole, wasn't that stupid when we did that? No, it wasn't. Dude, those movies are considered some of the greatest ever made. And all of them came with a song like this. Top Gun has Danger Zone. Footloose has Footloose, both by the same guy. Rocky had Eye of the Tiger, or was it Rocky 3 or Rocky 4? It was Eye of the Tiger. Rocky 3, wasn't it? I actually never saw Rocky 3. I've only seen bits and pieces of Rocky 4. To me, the only Rocky movies are Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky Balboa. The rest are so unnecessary. They're nonsense. Fun nonsense, don't get me wrong. Bit unnecessary in the grand scheme of the series. So yeah, you have the annoying, pretentious satire shit, and then you have the just straight out, like, slapsticky, Dumb and Dumber type of comedy that's just throwing a bunch of gags in your face. But then there's those movies that are funny when they're not supposed to be fun. Like, to me, the funniest movie ever made is Sling Blade. It's not billed as a comedy. It's not set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline. Every situation going on in it is, on paper, not funny. But every scene is hilarious. Even the scene where he's telling that dark childhood story about having to bury his little brother in the backyard while he was still alive, no less, because he was, like, prematurely born. But just the way... And it's played serious. It's not trying to be funny. It's just Carl who's funny, because he says shit like, well, figuring the way things are, I guess it's best we just gave him back to the good Lord right off the bat. Because I wouldn't try to make it, like, funny like Sling Blade. I would aim for making it more like the second funniest movie that's not really a comedy and supposed to be funny. Goodfellas. It would be funny the way Goodfellas is funny. That's what I would be kind of aiming for, as far as its comedic tone. I mean, it is kind of hard, though, like, as far as the song goes, to kind of capture that lightning in a bottle, to actually do that without somehow being, like, self-aware and ironic. And you know what another great 80s song was? It wasn't used the same way, but that song from Critters.
Power of the night, streets are calling, stealing from the light, shadows calling, it's the power of the night, streets are calling, power of the night.
It's a silly song, but it's silly in, like, in a retrospective kind of way. At the time, this was kind of cool. Actually, it still is. Yeah, laugh at the fucking haircut. This guy's still cool. He's butcher than most of the guys who are trying to be butch. Turtle Power was that song. That was another good example of an awesome 80s song. Unfortunately, none of the lyrics match anything going on in this movie, other than the turtles and the shredder, but the story of the song makes no sense, so we definitely can't use it. Alright, so the montage will kick off with Raph and Karai and Asuka and a couple of other foot soldiers doing a robbery, knocking over a business owned by some competing gang member. It's one of his fronts. Before they go in, I think it'd be kind of funny to have Raph do a must be a good character moment where Raph makes a kind of a flirtatious remark at Karai, and she, like, throws him this look like, How dare you? Like maybe says something like scoldy to him, makes him like back off. Then when she turns away and looks, like you see her at the camera, she kind of smiles. She's actually flattered that Raphael finds her attractive. So then they go into a place like Point Break, and then they hit it, and that's when you kick off the montage. So other shit you see in the montage, you see him doing that. You see Raphael training under Shredder. You see the Turtles out beating the streets hunting Shredder. You can see April looking for the Foot Clan. You're gonna see Splinter looking at family photos of Raphael as a little turtle and crying about it. You see the turtles sparring with each other and training. We also see Raphael doing these gladiator-style arena fights against other gang members, like toughest guys. Like, here, give us your toughest guy, and they throw him in the ring with Raphael. Raphael's kicking the shit out of him. During the training montage with the Turtles, when you see him sparring, Michelangelo gets Donatello like in a submission hold, and he's just going, "Say it! Say it!" And then at the end of the montage, it ends with them back in the submission hold and going, "Say it!" And Donnie's like, "Fine, fine. Blade Runner rules." And Mikey goes, "Thank you," and lets him go. Because that's how you settled an argument like that in the 80s. After the montage, we get another scene of Shredder hanging out with Raphael and telling him about the Foot Clan's legacy and how they've once held over an empire, and they used to rule the cities in Japan. Of course, they took a major hit in World War II because their base was in Hiroshima, which got hit by the bomb. So it's been a long period since the 50s where they've been having to rebuild the Foot Clan completely from the ground up, whichever ones were still like left that survived World War II. And they're having the conversation on this balcony over the like arena area where they do all the fighting and shit. And they're doing and down there where, you know, all the foot soldiers are, there's a ceremony going on where Asuka is getting her gauntlet, her first gauntlet, which is a graduation up from the headband. She's not at tattoo level yet, but she's at the stage. Getting this gauntlet is it's a symbol that says, "Next, I get the tattoo." Shredder, however, really doesn't see Asuka going to the level that Karai thinks she's going to bring this girl. But he's letting Karai make her mistakes. Like, I don't want him to be like a super evil, one-dimensional guy. I mean, with his daughter, he's very much a real father. And Karai fucking adores this man to a psychotic degree. Because if you did the daddy issues in the other direction, where she was like either fighting really hard to win her dad's approval and he didn't give a shit, I don't think it would be. I think this group is scarier as a unit when they're functional. And I have this theory about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, or at least something I noticed about them. Every movie is a different character's movie. Like the 1991 was Raphael's movie. It's dark, it's broody, it's raining. It's got the most adult themes. It's got all the heavy emotional themes. And you even got Shredder is dressed up in like a red outfit. Then you get the second movie. The second movie is a little more lighthearted, but the answer to all of it is science. And that one's Donatello's movie. So it feels like it's from the point of view of Donatello. It has Donatello's mentality and point of view all over it. So it is a little more kidified. There's all the other reasons they did it that way too. But then you got 3, which is like some ridiculous shit that Michelangelo would think up. And even the 3 on the title card, the Roman numeral 3, it's all orange. They didn't bother to try to do it in all the other colors. It's orange. And the movie is so idiotic and silly that, again, it matches the personality of Michelangelo. TMNT 1 is, TMNT, the 2007 one, is Leonardo's movie. It's all about leadership. The bad guy's like this general, who made this like bad mistake with his army, and then Leo's like learns a lesson from it. He finally has the big fight with Raph on the rooftop. That one's Leo's movie. The Michael Bay one is April's movie. The whole movie is from the point of view of April entirely. The plot all comes back to April. All the backstory comes back to April. So that one's April's movie. Out of the Shadows is Bebop and Rocksteady's movie. It's straight up a live action adaptation of the 80s cartoon. It's not particularly good. And then, sadly, Mutant Mayhem is kind of Splinter's movie. Even though it's the worst thing I've ever seen anybody do with Splinter, period. It was fucking awful in every single way. Not the character. I almost don't even want to count that as part of the series. But I'm going to, just for the sake of posterity. And yeah, the only one that actually had any type of character growth or story arc whatsoever was Splinter. So I guess that was Splinter's movie. This one is Shredder's movie. So this one's going to be a lot more exploring Shredder's backstory, the Foot Clan, how the Foot Clan works. So I don't want Shredder to be one-dimensional. I want to explore the psyche of Shredder, the mentality of Shredder, the ideology of Shredder as he teaches it to Raphael. That's why I want to take Raphael on a journey of becoming a Foot Clan member, so you don't fall into that trap that a lot of these comic book movies do, where you have the villain telling their plot to people they don't need to fucking tell it to, just so we can get the audience. Like, Shredder would not need to really explain any of this shit to Karai or anybody else. And having the Turtles all four doing their own thing and then trying to follow this Asuka girl would seem like so much of a diversion, but Raphael and Asuka kind of going on the same journey as rising Foot Clan members together makes her inclusion seem like a little less forced. Plus, it gives Raphael a little more, incentive to want to hang around. Because, now, Asuka and Karai are going to be the only two female members of the Foot Clan. But even still, you're trading up. From Raphael's perspective, he'd be trading up, hanging out with his four brothers, who he fights with a lot, who he feels like doesn't really want him around, thinks are scared of him and shit. And even though he probably should go home, I'm hanging out over here doing fun stuff with hot chicks. I'm trading up bitchy Leonardo for hot Japanese assassin chick. And I'm trading up Michelangelo's smartass for another hot babe. And it doesn't matter that he can't bang them. Attention from hot girls is awesome. Regardless, that's intoxicating. So that's good enough reason for Raph to not just immediately ditch the Foot Clan the first chance he gets. There is scenes, though, I would want to show during his tenure hanging out with the Foot Clan periodically. You'd see it happen once in the montage, and then you'd see it happen outside of the montage, where he goes to the phone and he actually calls the sewer phone, and you see him going, come on, pick up Donnie. And then, like, Mikey or Splinter answers the phone, and he just hangs up. Because he wants Donatello to answer the phone, but instead, anybody but the person he wants to talk to answers the goddamn phone, and he's just like, fuck it, and he hangs up. That's why these are the only two people in the Foot Clan, other than Shredder and Tatsu, you're gonna, like, really be paying attention to. Because this is the only people Raph is paying attention to. Yeah, I traded Leo and Mikey for a hot bitch, and, I don't know, a bunch of other goons. Fuck them, who cares? Also knowing that Mikey would be insanely jealous that Raphael is out doing real ninja missions with hot babes instead of sparring in a sewer with his brothers would be enough motivation to keep wanting to hang out there just by itself. Alright, now, this shit is gonna get a little bit dark. If I got an R rating for this movie, I wouldn't run with it too hard, but I would definitely use it for these two scenes, if nothing else. I really wouldn't. Yeah, I don't want to running around making a lot of dick jokes. I don't want him saying fuck every 5 minutes. If I'm gonna have him drop F-bombs, I'm gonna make them matter. But again, I would want kids to still be able to come see the damn movie. So I would probably, but it's R-rated. Yeah, so what? Like the first movies I ever remember watching clearly, most of them were R-rated. 70s R ratings too, like back when that meant something. So anyway, Raphael is on the docks doing like the important gun shipping type stuff. Like that's the level Shredder's got him working at now. He's got his tattoo and everything too. So now we catch up with April O'Neil, who has now found her way to the docks to try to record some Foot Clan activity. She gets caught by some foot soldiers, and they decide to play a little pinball, if you know what I mean. Raph steps up to intervene. One of them dismisses him as, you know, fuck off, Turtle Man. This is only something a real man understands. Raph beats the holy shit out of them and lets April go. So meanwhile, while that's going on, Karai and Asuka are going to a place to do a little gauntlet work, working her way up to earning that tat, and they're talking about boys and, or well, Asuka's talking about boys and shit. Karai is a lot like Lefty Ruggiero in Donnie Brasco. She's Foot Clan 24/7. So, you know, Asuka's like, well, come on, there isn't any of these dudes hanging around that you think is, you know, cute, and Karai's like, only one of them's worthy of me, unfortunately. He's a turtle. And then they get out of the van and they go to the thing. Now the thing that Karai is expecting Asuka to do is pretty fucked up. They get in there into this like abandoned warehouse area, and there's this other gang boss tied up to a chair. Karai hands Asuka a sawzall and goes, alright, it's time to make an example of this guy. Cut his feet off. And Asuka's like, you gotta be shitting me. And we're finding out not only do they chop these people's feet off, they do it while they're still alive. And then Karai explaining to her that this is what being in the Foot Clan is. This is what being a true dedicated Foot Clan member is. You gotta be ruthless. And this pivots her into telling this really psychotic story about how when she was a little girl, her father let her in the Foot Clan because she proved to him how ruthless and competent of an assassin she was by sneaking away from him at the market, targeting some woman and her kid, sneaking into their, following them to their vehicle, and assassinating them. She even brings the Shredder, the woman's finger and her wedding ring back as proof that she did the deed. And that's how Shredder come to realize that, yeah, you're Foot Clan material. And she's like 7 or 8 years old when she does this. And Karai tells this story with pride. She's just kind of standing there shocked, and then she looks over at the blade on the sawzall, which has dried blood caked on it already from previous sawing off of the feet. She hits the trigger, she watches the saw go, and she just throws up everywhere. Because, I mean, look, shooting a guy in the head when it's your first kill, that's hard enough. That fucks with you. Not that I know from personal experience, but as Gandolfini says in True Romance, the first one's always the hardest. I don't care if you're Wyatt or Project the Ripper. Now I do it just to watch a fucking expression change. But you gotta work your way up to sawing off live people's feet. That's not something you do right out of the gate. That's too much too fast. It's like instead of your boyfriend taking your virginity after this romantic night of the prom, you know, and it's this intimate, personal setting and the bonding of two spirits expressing love, just him and 5 of his friends jack off into your mouth. That's how quick that is in terms of murdering people. So Karai is a little disappointed by her reaction, but decides, you know what, that's fine. You do it next time. Right now, I'll just let you watch. And not taking too much advantage of the R rating by actually showing the foot get sawed off. You're just going to hear the saw going, and then you're just going to watch the reaction on Asuka's face as she watches this guy's feet be sawed off right in front of her. I want her to sell it Because your imagination is going to be way more gruesome than what would end up on screen. And then her facial expressions watching it would just sell the horror of the whole thing. Even if she knew they chop people's feet off, for like a young person that is joining a gang in the mid, to say you're running with a crew that if you fuck with us, we'll chop your goddamn feet off, that sounds good until you see somebody's feet get chopped off. And it also comes with the horrifying realization that something like this is going to happen to you. And here's another fun thing I just thought of. Instead of having the all the other, crime bosses that the Foot Clan are cleaning out to make room for themselves, instead of just having some fucking old mustache Pete from the 1930s sitting in the chair, let's have Luis J. Gomez sitting in the chair as like one of the Latin kings or something, and he's the one getting his feet cut off, and actually make that a thing. Because you know how like in the first Ninja Turtles movies, like the guy in the suit would always cross paths with the turtles at some point? You'd have like a little cameo scene of the guys in the suits out of the suits, like the pizza guy and the guy in the cab that goes, "What the heck was that?" Have every on-screen Foot Clan murder, the victim is always one of the actors playing the turtles. Alright, so we catch up again with the turtles. They're the other three turtles are hanging out on a rooftop, just kind of bullshitting, talking about things going on, how Splinter's doing. So they're out looking for Raph still. Michelangelo's hanging out on the edge of the building with a pair of binoculars, and he spots a dude coming up that he could tell is about to carjack somebody. This is a nod to the censored version of the Ninja Turtles, where for some reason Michelangelo wasn't allowed to have nunchucks, and they gave him a grappling hook instead, which is one of the many stupid things they had to do to censor the Ninja Turtles for Europe. Fucking Europe. Anyway, but yeah, he whips out a grappling hook and he just throws it over like the edge of the fire escape, and then it cuts to the dude carjacking the lady, like through the perspective of inside the car. You just see him pointing the gun going, "Get out the car, bitch! Get out the car, bitch!" And then you just see something swoop by his head, and you just hear the nunchucks whack him on the back of the head. So it's just swooped by, and his expression just changes, and he just drops, and the person in the car just takes off. Then we go back to the other Donnie and Leo up on the roof. Then Mikey, just a few seconds later, casually climbs back up the grappling hook. Donnie's like, "We get anything good?" "I got a 38 special and $10. He gives Leo the gun and then pockets the 10. Leo's like, "Oh, cool." Leo's kind of he's a little bit like Karai. He's just ninja all day. So he appreciates weaponry. Now we cut to April giving her news report on the Foot Clan and the things she's found about the Foot Clan, and now doing the story, because it's starting to pick up a little. The story's starting to get feet, so to speak. And then she mentions being rescued by a somewhat unusual citizen, and that gets the turtles. So they decide that's a lead to Raphael and decide to start following her. Of course, the phone rings. Mikey answers, and the person on the other end just hangs up. Shredder, of course, has just watched this news report, and he's heard the other Foot Clan stories. So we get another little homage to the first one of Shredder walking down the hallway, all pissed off, except instead of, roundhouse kicking Splinter, he just walks up and just kicks Raphael right in the stomach and knocks him down. And now he's scolding Raphael about letting the reporter go, and Raphael stands up and he's like, "Yeah, I'll let her go." And then he makes a case. He's like, "Dude, they were about to, what they were about to do to her, they were gonna, rape her." So that's weird hearing a Ninja Turtle say fucking rape. I know that's a weird word, but for this movie, but yeah, but that's basically the case he stands up and makes, and Shredder goes, "So what?" And that's when Raphael gets it. He gets why everybody was up his ass about slamming that dude into the subway as hard as he did. He understands now, like, oh, this is what they were trying to stop me from turning into. So while Shredder and Raph are having their thing, Karai is discovering that Asuka is no longer going to be sticking around. She overhears her on the phone crying, talking to her mom, saying that she wants to come home, that she's going to come home, and all that stuff. So now Karai feels betrayed, and then she goes to Shredder. They sit down in Shredder's office. Shredder takes his helmet off. Shredder only takes his helmet off in this story to talk to either Karai or Tatsu. Those are the only two people that are allowed to see him without his helmet. And I might just leave it with Karai, because I don't really see other many times for him to be opportunities to have a scene where he takes the helmet off in front of Tatsu. But now we see Shredder with the helmet off for the first time, and he's talking to Karai. And Karai is coming to her, and she's, takes out her dagger and her little napkin, and she's getting ready to cut off her finger because she thinks she failed with Asuka. And she explains, I made a mistake, with Asuka, and she's ready to cut off a finger. And then, because remember, this bitch is all Foot Clan all day. Foot Soldier doesn't carry his money in a wallet, carries it in a roll. Like, she's, again, like Lefty from Donnie Brasco. And Shredder's like, hey, yeah, you don't need to do that, alright? So I knew she wasn't going to make it. And then that's when he explains what the whole thing is. Like, I knew she wasn't going to make it. I knew you were making a mistake. Mistakes are part of training. I'm training you to take my place one day. That's a lesson. You did everything right. And who knows, it could have been the other way. She could have worked out. You could have ended up being right. Girl was a good fighter. Shredder and every other depiction of Shredder is very one-dimensional. I want to humanize Shredder a little bit. And I think if you have a character that's Shredder's daughter, like, this is the opportunity to do it. Now, nobody else sees Shredder as human. He's supposed to be, just this terrifying thing all the time. But he does have a daughter, so I want to show the moments of him actually being a decent human being with his own daughter. Nowhere else in the world, but with his own daughter, he's an actual fucking person. And I want him to be like he's raising her to be in the Foot Clan and all that shit. And Karai is kind of the devil's seed as a character, but he still loves her. It's still his daughter. And I want at least one good scene in this movie to really show that, and this would be it. So then Shredder tells her that, I think I may have made the same mistake too. So don't sweat it. So now we catch up with April, who's going into a subway tunnel, get on a train, middle of the night, empty subway, and she's standing next to Joe DeRosa, kind of smiles at her, and then you get that jump scare moment of him getting karate kicked by the Foot Clan onto the train tracks, and a bunch of costume foot soldiers beat the shit out of April, and they take her into a subway service tunnels. And it's the same guys that Raph beat up at the warehouse are the dudes that Shredder sent to finish off April. So they're taking her off to finish what they were going to do the first time. So they get her away down into the service tunnels, and old dude's unbuckling his pants, and she's barely conscious, and he goes like, yeah, there's not going to be a turtle man here to save you. And then Leonardo goes, no, now there's 3. And they get the shit beaten out of him again. And the turtles grab April, who's barely awake, and they take her back to the den. So when she comes to in the turtle den, it's not going to be a complete repeat of the first April scene in TMNT 90. It's more like she wakes up and she's already expecting to meet the giants. She's already seen them. So she's not going to be like freaking out or anything. She's going to be freaking out like, "Oh my god, this is awesome. I found you guys. I found you." So she's going to be like really excited, and then, at a certain point during her like excitement rant, she turns around and there's Splinter, and then she screams like a fucking maniac because she wasn't expecting to see a giant rat behind her. So that's how you can play with that moment a little bit. So we cut back to the Foot Clan headquarters for a minute. See Tatsu giving Shredder a rundown on Casey Jones, who Raph says trained him. And he breaks it down. He's like, this guy's a hockey player. He's doing time up in some prison on a murder beef. And he's like, there's no way this guy trained him to fight like that. And if you If you don't mind me saying, Master, I know you don't like this brought up, but he fights just like Hamato Yoshi. And then Shredder gives him like this fucking like really just angry look. Tatsu backs off. He's like, makes that like I'm just saying face. So now Shredder knows Raphael has lied to him. Cut to Asuka packing up her shit and is on the way out of her little bunk room, and then opens the door and Karai's standing on the other side. Cut back to the turtle den. April is going through a photo album with Splinter and, you know, the turtles' baby pictures, and then she goes, oh my god, you know Casey Jones. And Splinter goes, yes, he was my best friend. And then April's like, yeah, I really had the hots for him when I was a senior in high school was when his story became a thing. And it'd be funny to have April just go off on, like, just have a total Blanche moment talking about Casey Jones. Like, she really gets lost in it.
Tight man with cast iron pecs. Thighs that could choke a bear. But you could eat breakfast off of.
And she hears one of them say, all right, dinner's ready, and Splinter invites her to eat dinner. And she's like, oh. And you just hear her going, like, under her breath as she's sitting down at the table. She's like, awesome. Flies and stink bug salad, and then a slice of pizza slides up in front of her. She goes to pick up the pizza, and then notices they're all getting into saying grace position, and she's just like, you gotta be shitting me. And Splinter gives like this really beautiful, gives like this heartfelt, like, grace thanks for the pizza, but and also for bringing them April, like our wonderful new friend April, who's gonna help us bring Raphael home. And it's like just this really sweet, beautiful scene. And then, you know, when it's over, they're looking at April like, yes, thank you for being here, thank you for helping us. You know, like, just, I want it to all be like the campfire scene. And I'm not going to be quite as emotional as the campfire scene. Don't get me wrong, I'm not stupid. But I want it to be, like, that good. And the phone rings, Donnie gets up and answers it. Raph's like, finally! That's the one he wanted to talk to. And then you just hear Donnie's side of the conversation and watch the other turtles react to it. Aside from looking for you, fine. Yeah, he's worried sick. Yeah, dude, we just want you to come home. You got a job doing what? What does that mean? Dude, where? Ninjas Incorporated? And Donnie's like quiet for a minute, and then he goes, well, just come home then. Then we cut back to Raph, and he's just like, I don't know if it's gonna be that simple. It's like, I might have to do some things first, but I'll be home soon. And then he sees Shredder and Tatsu, like, calling for him, and he's like, shit, I gotta go. So Donnie hangs up the phone, and they figure it out. It's like, okay, he's in the Foot Clan. Well, where do the Foot Clan hang out? And April knows where the Foot Clan hang out because she's been investigating them. So she knows the word on the street is that they're over at the junkyard over on, like, the really shitty area of town, which I kind of want to name Wingnut's Junkyard, and then have the mascots, whenever you see, like, the sign for Wingnut's Junkyard, to have, like, the bat and the mosquito, like Wingnut and Screwloose are the mascots for this junkyard. Because I love Wingnut and Screwloose. On the other hand, I don't have a place for them in this trilogy, really. So that could be a nice little, like, nod to them. So the other turtles arrive at the junkyard. They all switch out their headbands for red headbands so they can split up and walk freely in the crowd and pass as Raphael. And also, it's a throwback to the original Eastman and Laird where they all just had red headbands. Alright, so we gotta see what Shredder wanted with Raphael, and he's do a scene where they're maybe walking down a corridor or something, and he's talking to him. He's like, alright, I'm ready to bring you up to the next. He's not mad at him anymore. He's back towards building him up to be in the Foot Clan again. He's like, I do feel like there's one more test I need you to pass. Because Shredder does still want to keep Raphael, but now he's suspicious of Raphael. Because now he's found out Raphael's lied to him. Raphael kind of fights like a guy he hates. And Raphael maybe, because You know, and I had this as a conversation between Shredder and Tatsu, but he's like, yeah, I remember thinking it was fortunate when he fought those foot soldiers when we first met that I didn't lose any of them. I remember thinking that was a good fortune for me at the time. But yeah, I've never seen this thing kill anybody. So I need to make sure this thing can kill somebody. So I need to make this thing ruthless. So again, because Shredder does want to keep Raphael. Raphael's a great asset to the Foot Clan, so there's no need to just dispatch him needlessly. But you need to make sure he's completely on the team. I mean, he was so ahead of the game coming in, that's why Shredder didn't really take the time to vet him. It's like, well, obviously the NYPD didn't send a fucking turtle in here to infiltrate my organization. So I didn't have to worry about him being an undercover cop. So there's a step he got to skip. He's already badass. He's already the best fighter here next to Shredder, and he got to skip that step. So I neglected the idea that a goddamn reptile wouldn't be a vicious killer. I didn't think the fucker would have this much of a conscience. Alright, so we see the turtles have split up. They're, you know, Donatello's wandering around outside, Leonardo's wandering around in a different part of the building, and Michelangelo is in the big playroom with the arcade machines and the skateboarding ramps and all that shit. So now we go to Asuka being led down this corridor by Karai, and she's being given the old "you don't just walk out of here" speech. She's like, if you want out, you're gonna have to earn your way out. So it's kind of pushing her in the same direction that Shredder's pushing Raphael. It's like, well, if you want out of here, you're gonna have to fight to the death to get out. Then Asuka steps into the arena, and then Raphael walks up into the other end. Raph kind of looks back at Shredder like, you're fucking kidding me, right? And then Asuka is just standing there terrified. She's like, I'm gonna die. Like, they just put me in this, like, she was being put in there to basically be executed. And Raph is supposed to do it to prove that he can still be in the Foot Clan. So the two kind of do that, like, circling each other thing, like they're getting ready to fight. Then we go back to the playroom where Mikey has found the arcade machine is playing. He's going to be playing the Narc game that you saw in the first one, where the guys are shooting the big, like, skull head. But Mikey's playing that. A couple of guys come up behind him because they've recognized that he isn't Raph because he's significantly shorter than Raphael, and they've heard his voice while he's sitting there talking to the arcade machine. And they're like, who are you? And he goes, dude, Raphael, only turtle that hangs around here. And the guy's like, you're not Raphael. Alright, well, that wasn't my best Raph impression. How about this? And then he just kicks both of them in the legs and breaks their ankles and then smashes their heads together. He's like, well, how was that? Then we cut to Leo hanging out in some, like, back room area with a bunch of dudes just kind of standing around. And they're not paying attention to him again because he's wearing the red band. They think he's Raphael. And then some dude comes in and he's like, hey. He's like, dude, you know, see it? The turtles fight. And then he's like, whoa, what the fuck? And then he points out Leonardo. Then Leonardo has to kick the shit out of them. So we go back to Raph and Asuka circling each other in this ring. Raph pulls a size out of his belt and goes, you know how to use these? And she just kind of shakes her head and he goes, good. He throws them to her and goes, let's get out of here. And she's kind of smiles like, oh, good, I got some kind of fighting chance here. So then they both spin back to back in the defensive position. And Raph tells Shredder, he's like, not gonna do it, man. Shredder, of course now, says one of his famous lines. He goes, then tonight I dine on turtle soup. Kill them both! And then some of the other foot soldiers that have been watching this, that, you know, I have some in the background, you could tell really aren't down with this. They start helping out in the fight once Asuka and Raph start kicking ass. And I definitely want Asuka to do that move from the video game, except I'm going to have her get like a running start and leap off of the back of Raphael's shell. But I want her to do that move where she knocks somebody out with her ass. So then you get this big climactic fight. You got Asuka and Raphael fighting foot soldiers. You got the young, not fully indoctrinated foot soldiers stepping up and fighting some foot soldiers. One of them, of course, would be Razor Fist, and Tatsu will come up and shank him in the back. Tragically, the one who was just about to turn his life around. But yeah, so then that would be your appearance of another turtle getting wasted by the Foot Clan. You cut back to shots of Michelangelo and Donatello kicking ass around that playroom. And have Leonardo kicking ass in other parts of the warehouse. Fight her way to an exit with the help of some of the turned foot soldiers. Goes out and she runs into the other turtles who are kicking the shit out of the foot soldiers. And then Karai shows up. She has a one-on-one fight with Karai, which she loses. And Karai is just about to kill her, but then Leonardo intervenes, and then we get a good fight scene between Karai and Leonardo. Karai actually holds her own against Leonardo fairly well. She ultimately loses, and having these two fight each other during this sequence is it's kind of a nod to this comic. I don't know which one, but there was one where Leonardo and Karai had kind of a romance thing going, so that's a little nod to that, getting these two to fight each other. And of course he wins. He knocks her out. He doesn't kill her. She lives through this thing, but she's down for the rest of the movie. And Donatello and Michelangelo have to face down Tatsu, who decides to fuck this shit. I'm an old man. Breaks out a machine gun and just starts trying to shoot them. He ends up hitting a couple of his own guys and chases them like to another other end of the playroom and ends up on that skateboard ramp. And this is a good place for having the turtles use the skateboards. Donatello skateboard by, does it with a skateboard trick, and uses his staff to knock the gun out of Tatsu's hand, and then Michelangelo skateboards by and grabs him with that grappling hook. He's still with it, and they sling him face first into that fucking narc machine. I just thought of that off the top of my head right now, so I have no idea how exactly that stunt would work, but just to show that a goddamn grappling hook could be just as vicious and violent as nunchucks, I definitely want a really cool stunt to happen involving that grappling hook and Tatsu being somehow launched face first into the narc machine. And yeah, he's probably dead. He is dead. Now we get a moment where the four turtles come back together and unite. They have their little uniting moment, and then out walks Shredder. Shredder's something like, well, you didn't tell me your hockey player sensei had more pupils. Do they also fight like Hamato Yoshi? And then Leo steps forth. How do you know who Hamato Yoshi is? And Shredder goes, because I killed him. And then you see the turtles having their like Mikey and Donnie having that, oh shit, it's the guy that killed Grandpa reaction. Then Raphael's the one that's going to drop the name Hiroko Saki at Shredder. Then Leo says, our families have unfinished business. Like, just super serious the way Leonardo should. And Shredder goes, well, come settle your business. So Leo starts to step forward, but Raph stops him and he goes, no, I got him. I know this guy. This is between me and him, so let's just do it. Goes at Shredder, gets his ass kicked. Leo steps up, same result. And then members of the Foot Clan and dudes that have been still standing in the midst of all this start gathering around. You see them like going around, hey, those turtles are fighting Shredder. So you got the good guys kind of showing up, and then the bad guys are like on the other side, and this crowd is gathering, and then you watch the turtles take turns basically getting their asses handed to them by Shredder. Shredder takes a moment from kicking the turtles' asses. They take a second to regroup. Shredder walks around and talks to the foot soldiers, because I mean he's still got to set an example to any of these dudes who still want to be in the Foot Clan. Like, this is a bad day for Shredder, so he's got to save some face here. He could take on all four of these mutant turtles, crush all four of them in hand-to-hand combat. That sends a message. This is why you don't fuck with the Foot Clan. It's a great flex of strength. So he turns around and beckons the turtles, come on, let's go, round two. Turtles decide on a new strategy. Let's just all go for him at once. Shredder, of course, knocks away Donatello, knocks away Leonardo, takes Raphael down, but the one he moves in to do a fatal strike on is Mikey. He sticks him, gets him injured, down, and he's about to finish him off, and then Raph flips into a rage, headbutts Shredder's helmet, like right into that, right above the eyes, right in that razor. I mean, it won't be the saw blade thing, but it'll be like where razor edge goes in. So Raph hits it. There's going to be a big spray of blood that comes out of Raph's forehead, but it also dents the helmet straight down into the bridge of Shredder's nose and blinds him. And then Raph just proceeds to beat him mercilessly, sticking him with the size, the whole works. Rolls around for a minute and a half dead. Raph finishes him off, throws the sai straight into his chest. Shredder falls over. Sai comes out of the blade of the sai comes out of his back, and he's dead. And Raph runs over to Michelangelo, starts hugging him, seeing if he's all right. We find out Michelangelo's fine. He's gonna live. He's just really hurt. Raph's all crying, apologizing. I'm so sorry about, what happened. I'm sorry, I never got to actually say I'm sorry. And it's this big emotional scene. He's like, it's all right, Raph. It's all right. I've been over it. Then you hear cheers going on from the disillusioned Foot Clan members as Mikey stands back up, and all the other bad Foot Clan members, they've all kind of fucked off after Shredder was dead. Because, I mean, look, he can't beat him. Ain't none of us gonna do it. And the Turtles congratulate themselves. They take their bow with all the guys that are cheering them on, and their bows. They do a high five cowabunga. Movie's over. Alright, so anyway, that's my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Who I would get to direct that movie, because I really wouldn't want to do it. I would want somebody that was good. I'd go for Paul W.S. Anderson, and I know that people bitch about the Resident Evil movies or whatever, but I think he's a really great director. For what I would want him to do well with in this movie is the action and creature effects. He does excellent action. He does really good creature effects. I mean, I'm looking at, like, previous works include Mortal Kombat. I want shit like that Scorpion Johnny Cage fight. That was great. The guy does great choreography. Monster Hunter, I just watched that. The other movie's fucking badass. As far as how well he adapts movies to video games, I'm not really that big of a video game guy. I think if you manage to do it all, it's pretty amazing. I think video game movies, most of them are kind of handicapped by the fact that the video games are ripping off some other movie anyway. So it's impossible for it not to be. How do you make Resident Evil and it not just be like Dawn of the Dead? So there's action, as creature effects. And I'm not ordering dragons, so the creature effects are fairly simple. So I would be putting all the focus on, like, the characters and character development and shit like that. We don't need them sliding down a hill. We don't need them falling out of fucking planes. We don't need them fighting aliens. Just keep it simple. All the conflict is personal, like an 80s movie. Notice nobody was going to release a virus in an 80s... All 80s movies, the beef was always personal. Oh, you broke my brother's back in a kickboxing tournament, so I'm going to train up and kick your ass in a kickboxing tournament. Best of the best, it was the same thing. Bloodsport, it got personal because Chong Li stomped on what's-his-name's head. Because, like, the Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was trying to... It's trying to be a Marvel movie, or it's trying to be like a kid's comedy, or whatever the fuck Seth Rogen was doing. I don't even know who that was for. I want to take it back to what it actually started as, which is a martial arts film, an 80s martial arts film. And while, yeah, this first movie definitely plays out a little like a remake of the 1990 movie, and in a lot of ways is, it follows a lot of the same beats, the same themes, the Shredder recruiting teen runaways for the Foot Clan. Yeah, that's kind of how that works. That's the realistic version of Shredder. Sorry, that's what I kind of want to stick to. That's also the story every Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan is the most in love with. So stick with what works. Yeah, but change it up a little bit. And have us spend, like, way more time with the Foot Clan and see just how scary and terrible the Foot Clan really is. With the built-in cautionary tale about running away from home and buying into, chosen families bullshit. The danger of joining gangs. That's just baked right into the cake. You don't even really have to overemphasize it. And you can retell that story with being informed by things that came after, like Karai. I mean, have you ever seen Karai in a Ninja Turtles movie and ever been able to say anything more than, oh cool, it's Karai. But I want to see Karai actually be a villain and play a bad guy in the damn story. So, and with the whole father-daughter dynamic, having the two of them in a story together, add some dimensions to Shredder that make him a little more, you know, human, a little more interesting. Not that he was badass in the first one. And in Secret of the Ooze, he's scrambling to see, he's turning into the cartoon Shredder, but I would even argue in Secret of the Ooze on that one that he's scrambling to save face. So yeah, he's making all of these really terrible mistakes where, you know, Tatsu's like, well, we should rebuild the foot, and he's like, no, revenge, that's all that comes next. He's so obsessed with getting revenge that he becomes the thing Splinter was warning Raphael about in the first one, where he's like, you know, your anger clouds your mind, and when you turn it inward, it becomes an unconquerable enemy, and that's what Shredder is going through in the second one. Yeah, you should rebuild the foot. You take your time, rebuild the foot, make some mutants. That was a good idea. But instead of, like, actually taking the time to train the mutants, he's just like, get the turtles, have them fight the mutants right now. Like, he could have built a whole mutant army if he had just been fucking patient. But anyway, this Shredder dies, though, and this Hiroko Saki's dead after this. He doesn't survive this movie. We're moving on. I don't like the repeating bad guy shit. Unless you've set up for them, like, that up for, you know, really well. But otherwise, I don't like when the villain dies and then just suddenly pops back up. No, I'm shit. And yeah, it seems like it's kind of contradicting itself, since how, like, the lesson of Raphael kind of goes through is that, like, you know, you don't just kill people because they're bad people, but you do kill people that hurt your little brother. That you do kill people for. So it really doesn't. There's justified reasons to kill a motherfucker, and trying to kill your little brother and killing the guy in the fit of rage to protect your family, that is a justified reason to kill somebody. Alright, so yeah, that's my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pitch. Definitely comment, you know, subscribe, like, all that horse shit. Tell you how to use YouTube like you don't know. But interested to know if you think my pitch hits the mark in any way or misses it. That comment's always welcome on it. Yeah, so let's close it out. What were the credits here? What was our cast on this thing? Louis J. Gomez as Raphael, Joe DeRosa as Donatello, William Zabka as Leonardo, and Razor Fist as Michelangelo. Chrissy Mayers, April O'Neil, Bolo Young as Tatsu, Peyton List as Asuka, Elias Koteas as Gridlock. Still on the fence about it. Christopher Lambert as Splinter, and I don't really have a good suggestion for Shredder. Hirona Yamazaki, I would let her try out for Karai. I mean, I only saw her in Monster Hunter. She didn't really have any lines or anything, but I was like, yeah, I could see her. She's got a good look. She's got the look to be Karai. I can't remember how to say her fucking name. The chick from Tokyo Gore Police, that would be the ideal Karai to me, but she's too old. Karai's like supposed to be 21, 22. I think she's in Kill Bill too. She's the hit woman with the shotgun in the hotel room where she has the standoff and she lets what's-her-name go because she's pregnant. I think that was her. I would have to audition some Shredders, though. Everybody I can think of, like Japanese actor-wise, is too old for the goddamn part. Got any suggestions, let me know in the comments. And like and subscribe, all that horse shit. I will be back next time. I'll definitely do more of these. We'll be returning for sure to break down the sequel to this masterpiece I have just pitched. So keep a lookout for that. Till next time, while the world says,
eat shit and die, Ricky!
I say,
eat shit and live.
Now all of you, get the fuck out now before I get too mad to turn back. All y'all, now get the fuck out. Come on, you motherfuckers. Get the fuck out! Randy, you tuning son of a bitch! Go fucking practice, Randy! Come on, Morris, you fucking genius! Get the fuck up and get get the fuck out of here! God damn it!
When you stand for what you believe in and find the strength to do what's right, that's turtle power.
Stay out of my goddamn face, you fucking buzzard.